I fell right into the water, and the waves immediately carried me away from the yacht. I panicked. I was a very bad swimmer. All sorts of horror stories about sharks immediately came to my mind. Help! Hey, wait! I'm here! No one heard me. The yacht was sailing further and further away, taking my chances of salvation with it. I had swallowed a lot of seawater, and tears were streaming down my face. It was the end. All of a sudden, someone grabbed my arm. Thinking it was a shark, I screamed and turned around. Hi, my name is Lana. I never went to parties and was always reading books. I was a nerd in college, and I was absolutely obsessed with comics. At first, I just liked reading them, and then I started coming up with and illustrating my own stories. I was massively inspired by Dan Evans, a famous comic artist, and I dreamed of becoming as cool as he was. One day, I was walking through college hallways and reading comics as usual. I turned the corner and suddenly bumped into someone. My book fell out of my hands. I looked up and froze. Damn it, it was Blake, the coolest guy in college, and my crush. Our classmates surrounded us, and someone noticed that my comic had fallen to the floor. They immediately started laughing at me. I wanted to sink through the floor with humiliation. I stared at Blake in horror and was silent. Hey, look at that. Blake's so handsome, he left our nerd speechless. Blake laughed. I'm not interested in such quiet and plain girls. That hurt me, and I ran away so I wouldn't burst out crying right in front of everyone. Wandering around the city, I decided I wanted to change, become bold and interesting. I walked into a cafe, sat down at a far table, and started drawing on my tablet. It had always helped me calm down. Then, I suddenly heard someone behind me say, "This looks amazing." I turned around and saw a guy with piercings and a bunch of tattoos. He sat down at my table and we got to talking. The guy's name turned out to be Henry, and he was a master at a tattoo parlor that liked drawing too. I looked at his tattoos and had an idea. What if I got a tattoo too? When I told Henry about my thought, he supported me and brought me to his tattoo parlor. We made a sketch together, and I came home with a tattoo on my neck. It looked very unusual and super cool. I decided that I wouldn't tell anyone about it just yet. The next day, I wore a jumper with a high collar to college. During a lecture, we were suddenly told that a week-long trip to Florida would be organized for the best of students. They read out the list of those who would go, and I heard my name. I always wore oversized clothes, though, and I heard everyone start making fun of me. I bet she'll even wear a hoodie to the beach. I gritted my teeth with anger. I was so tired of those bullies. And I decided that one tattoo wasn't enough for me. They thought I was a shy nerd. I would show them all. After college, I went back to the tattoo parlor and told Henry I wanted to get more tattoos. He tried to dissuade me. You should think it over and not do it when you're so emotional. Get temporary tattoos for now, okay? Live with them for a while, and if you don't change your mind, we'll make them permanent. I thought about it and agreed. I drew all the new sketches myself. A few days later, Henry transferred them to my skin right before the trip. I felt like a completely different person. In Florida, our group checked into a hotel. I ended up in a room with Miley, my best friend. No one found her impressive either, which was probably why we'd become friends. I hadn't even told Miley about my tattoos yet. I had to lie and say that I wasn't feeling well so she would go to the beach without me. About a half hour later, I plucked up my courage and I changed into a bikini. I let my hair down and put on a cap and dark glasses. Then I went to the beach and slowly walked along the shore. Blake suddenly noticed me. He immediately started complimenting my figure and my tattoos. Just imagine, he hadn't recognized me. I slowly took off my glasses and smiled coquettishly at him. To say that Blake was stunned would be an understatement. Well, who's speechless now? Everyone was shocked by my transformation. They crowded around me and looked at me like I was a museum exhibit. Everyone really liked my tattoos, and only the prettiest girl in college called them tasteless. Nora, just admit that you're jealous. Lana turned out to have a very cool figure, and her tattoos are pretty great too. Nora turned green with anger, and I was over the moon. While we were hanging out on the beach, Blake was doing everything he could to please me. He brought me cocktails, adjusted my sunbed, and put sunscreen on my shoulders. The seawater could quickly wash away my temporary tattoos, so I had to sit in the sun. When we got back to the hotel, Miley came up to me, upset. Why didn't you tell me about your tattoos? I thought we were friends. I had to admit that only one of my tattoos was real, just so I could calm my friend down. One day, we were walking to the beach and saw an announcement about an upcoming palm tree party. The queen of the beach would be chosen there. Of course, all the girls immediately wanted to participate.
Lana, let's go to the party together.
Had I heard right? Of course, I wanted to, and I immediately agreed. However, when I was returning to the hotel, Nora suddenly blocked my way. She forcefully grabbed my shoulder and hissed, "Stay away from Blake." I looked at her defiantly.
Or what?
Or you'll regret it. It's pointless to threaten me. Blake likes me, so deal with it. I walked by the shocked Nora into the hotel. The same day, Miley and I went shopping. I was hoping to find a beautiful but not very expensive dress. We were exhausted by the time I finally got lucky. I would have never worn such a dress before, but that day, I liked it, surprising even myself. Back in our room, I hung it up on the back of a chair and went to bed, looking forward to the next night. Everyone would be stunned after seeing me. But in the morning, I was in for an unpleasant surprise. When I got out of bed, I saw something terrible. My dress had been cut up. I was shocked. It didn't take me long to guess who had done it. Of course, it must have been Nora. Ugh, she was so nasty. But she wasn't gonna get rid of me that easy. I went down to the reception and asked for sewing supplies. While everyone was out hanging on the beach, I drew a sketch of a new outfit and started to work on the dress. I was able to turn it into an original Hawaiian-style top and skirt. To be honest, I liked my new outfit even more than I'd liked the dress. Remember how I'd said that everyone had been shocked to see me with tattoos and in a bikini? Well, my appearance at the party had the same effect. Blake met me at the entrance to the beach, and when we appeared on the dance floor together, that was something. You should have seen our classmates' faces. Nora, once again, turned green with envy. Everyone was having fun, dancing limbo and drinking tropical cocktails. Then, the competition began, and all the girls lined up by a small catwalk. One by one, they walked in and posed while cool music played. We were told that the one with the loudest applause would win. Nora did great, but when I got on the catwalk, well, you get it, right? The beach exploded with applause. It was incredible. I had never felt so admired in my life. I became the queen of the beach and was presented with a crown made of palm leaves. I went to the bar to get a cocktail, and I suddenly noticed that Blake was nowhere to be found. After going around the whole beach, I still couldn't find him. Where had he gone? Then Miley came up to me. She looked kind of upset.
Lana, I wasn't sure whether to tell you or not, but come on, you've got to see this for yourself.
I was confused, but I followed her, and soon we came to a hammock hanging between palm trees. It looked like Nora and Blake were in it, and they were kissing? How was this possible? I felt so hurt. Blake pushed Nora away and got up. I didn't even want to listen to what he had to say, and I ran away. I didn't even notice that my palm crown had fallen off my head. I walked along the beach, crying my eyes out. I sat on a bench and realized that I really was a loser after all. What was the point of changing if Blake had just chosen another girl anyway? A man came and sat down next to me. At first, I got scared and wanted to leave, but he suddenly complimented my tattoos.
These are very interesting drawings. The artist must be talented.
Actually, I drew the sketches for these tattoos myself. The man looked surprised and said that if I kept practicing, I'd have a great future ahead of me. I suddenly realized that his face looked really familiar, but I couldn't remember for the life of me where I'd seen him. The next day, we had a boat trip planned. We arrived at the yacht and Blake came up to me to talk. You are such a traitor! If you liked Nora, you shouldn't have been flirting with me.
But I only came to the hammock because I was told you would be there.
I looked at him blankly. Who told you that?
It was Miley.
Miley? Why had she done it? After walking around the entire deck, I found Miley at the stern of the yacht, and I asked her about Blake. My friend's face twisted with anger. I had never seen her look like that.
Yes, I called Blake to the hammock and I ruined your dress. Nora asked me to.
Miley had conspired with Nora. Against me? I was speechless.
We used to both be Blaine, but lately, you've gotten so popular and I'm still a nobody.
Did she really do this all out of envy? I didn't want to lose my friend, so I tried to reason with her. Look, we're still friends. I'll forget about everything you've done, and everything can be just like it used to. I tried to hug her, but Miley suddenly pushed me away. I tripped and I fell overboard. The waves immediately started carrying me away from the yacht, and I panicked. I was a very bad swimmer. All sorts of horror stories about sharks immediately came to my mind. Help! Hey, wait! I'm here! But no one heard me. The yacht was sailing farther and farther away, taking my chances of salvation with it. I had swallowed a lot of seawater, and tears were streaming down my face. It was the end. All of a sudden, someone grabbed my arm. I screamed, turned around, and saw Blake. It turned out he had seen me fall and had jumped in after me. I wasn't that scared anymore. Soon, people on the yacht noticed. They dropped a life buoy and helped us get back on board. People immediately crowded around us. They wrapped me in a towel and started rubbing my arms. Miley suddenly appeared next to me and asked sarcastically,
How are your tattoos after swimming in the seawater?
even after everything that she had done to me, that betrayal came as a surprise. Nora immediately grabbed my arm and rubbed my drawing away. Of course, the tattoos started to fade. When everyone realized that my tattoos weren't real, they started to make fun of me again. I hoped Blake would stand up for me, but he looked disappointed.
I was amazed by how brave you were to have gotten so many tattoos. But you're just a liar.
Even him kissing Nora hadn't hurt me this bad. Yeah, my tattoos were fake. So what? Was it really that important? Back at the hotel, I had hidden from everyone by the pool. To get my mind off things, I'd been reading various comics on my tablet, and I suddenly came across a photo of my favorite artist. Looking at the portrait of Dan Evans, I couldn't believe my eyes. That was the man I talked to on the embankment. That was why his face was so familiar to me. Why hadn't I recognized him right away? There was no contact information of Dan Evans publicly available, so I had no way of finding him again. I had had a 1 in a million chance, and I had missed it. That made me feel even worse than I had before, and I burst into tears again. As we were leaving Florida, my classmates weren't paying attention to me or making fun of me. I came home in a terrible mood. Standing in the shower, as I was angrily washing off the remnants of my tattoos, I suddenly realized I wanted to get real ones. Not because I was feeling hurt, but because I had thought about it and come to a decision, just like Henry had told me to do. The tattoos seemed to reflect my inner world, and they helped me to express myself. So, the next day, instead of going to college, I went to the tattoo parlor. Henry was really happy to see me again, and he didn't try to dissuade me. So, in a few days, I had a lot of new permanent tattoos. As I was getting the last batch of them, a visitor suddenly walked into the parlor. I turned around and I froze with my mouth open. I thought I was dreaming. It was Dan Evans. It turned out that Henry was his nephew. I almost fainted from the news. Dan Evans suddenly took a closer look at me and smiled.
Oh, I remember you. You're that talented girl I saw in Florida.
I couldn't miss such an amazing opportunity again, so I asked him to take a look at some of my comics. Mr. Evans really liked them. He studied them for a long time, and then he made me a very surprising offer.
As you know, my name is well known in the industry. We could write up a contract. I could become your agent and recommend you to a publishing house.
If I hadn't already been sitting, I think I would have fallen over. We signed our contract the same evening, and the next day, I was on cloud 9 when I returned to college. Seriously, my dream had come true, so I was over the moon. When I walked into the classroom, everyone immediately noticed my tattoos. Nora started to make fun of me. What'd you do, rob a sticker store? I was kind of expecting that reaction, so I defiantly took wet wipes out of my bag and rubbed my tattoos with them. My skin turned red and the drawing stayed clear. Well, you satisfied? My classmates were stunned, again, and I felt like a real queen, even if my crown had been left somewhere on a beach in Florida. After the lecture, Blake apologized to me and suggested that we start over. But I was already over him. I wanted to be with a person who would love me for me, and not what I had. Henry and I saw each other each and every day. I was constantly asking him about my comics, and he promised they were gonna come out. One day, I went to a cafe and accidentally heard something on the TV. I usually wasn't all that interested in the news, but I heard a familiar name.
For many years, the identity of Dan Evans has been shrouded in mystery. But it recently came to light that he stole many works from young, talented artists and claimed them for his own. Right now, the charlatan has already been put on the wanted list.
I mechanically took a sip of my coffee without really tasting it. Still not fully realizing what I'd heard, I called Henry. His phone was unavailable. Then I went to the tattoo parlor, but the door was locked and the windows had been boarded up. How was this possible? I had been there just one day before. I started shaking. Could it be that I had been deceived? I couldn't believe it, so I waited for Mr. Evans or Henry to show up. But time passed and they were nowhere to be seen. One day, I went to a store and suddenly saw a familiar cover on the shelf. I had been the one to draw that. Those were my comics. My heart was pounding as I looked at the author's name and froze. It said Henry Wood. A month has passed since then. I filed a police report and even went to court. I was told that the chances of proving I was the author were very small, but I'm not gonna give up. Do you think that I can truthfully prove they're mine?